Hi, my name is Nikolas. I'm actually not from Minnesota. I'm an Iowan who moved here last year. I'm working on it. It's mostly done, but I'm here to talk to you today about a wide variety of topics, but the two ones we're going to talk about are mental health and prisoners. Probably the worst two combinations I could have said. What do you imagine when you think of a violent felon? Do you think of some gang-covered tattoo member, maybe someone who's a murderer and just a bloodthirsty sociopath? What about a stay-at-home mom? I bet most of you were like, wait, what? For me, that was my reality. My mother, while I was 15, was convicted of first-degree arson. I could bore you with the details of the case of why I oppose it, but I'm a biased source. She was sentenced to 25 years when I was 15, just a freshman in high school going through all this. And everyone in the school knew before I did. I mean, I was at the trial, but those people apparently at the school knew more than I did. And it said a lot about what was happening around. Even though I wasn't personally convicted, I was still guilty by association. For every sense of the word and every part of it, I was a pariah in my own community. There wasn't a lot I could do about it, and friends I'd hung out with in the past were told I couldn't be with them anymore because their parents didn't approve of me. There was a lot of situations like that would happen over the next 3 years for me. I, during this time, had other events in my life, including founding a game club, and it was good. I had done some things to help my community, even if the community didn't want me. But every month for the next 3 years, I went to visit my mom in a VR room with the CEO watching over us. Correctional Facilities Officer, if anyone's curious. Every 3 years, for every month, it felt like I was chewing glass when I walked into that room and walked out. It hurt. What made it hurt more was every time we said only one more visit. We knew it was a lie, but it made us feel better. And every time I visited my mom, I saw a little bit of that hope on her face fade. I don't know why, but I maybe think it was because she thought that I was going through worse, and she was right. I mean, even if I hadn't been convicted, I was as guilty as she was in the eyes of the people. There was nothing I could do or say that would have made me any better or any worse. And she felt guilty for it. There was nothing she could do, just helplessly watching one of her two kids struggle in high school and all this, just trying to make his way through. I never got the chance for most of a normal adolescence or childhood, and I thought that there was no hope. Honestly, for a while there, I was just going through the motions of living, just pretending to be alive. I just did things. I was just hoping to find a reason, a purpose to actually care. And I had my club, and I had my few close friends, but there wasn't anything else. It was just a hole. And I think my mom must have felt very similar about prison, because both of us were in some sort of jail, just one was more constructed around our own psyche. That wasn't until someone saw straight through me and gave me a second chance. My guidance counselor, who I shall remain unnamed just for the purpose of privacy, came in from New York and just was a newbie like me and an outsider. She knew nothing except that every day she saw me stand on the outside of the lunchroom and just watch. I didn't interact with people. I was too afraid at some level. And she called me out on it. She knew what I was doing. I just didn't have the motivation to interact with people. Even though I had helped others in the past, it wasn't really because I cared. It was just because I was doing things. She gave me a reason to live. She gave me opportunity. She taught me what it meant. For a moment, I was actually alive. It felt incredible. And I suddenly decided to start taking charge. And I suddenly got involved again. And there was purpose behind my movements. I wasn't just moving. I was doing something. It felt incredible. And on the other hand, my mom got an opportunity too. A second chance. In Iowa, there was a college that did a prison program that allowed them to take courses. For my mom, who had dropped out when she had me at the age of 21, and my dad had continued throughout all of his college career and made ends meet for the family, there wasn't really anything she could do, except when she started to get to take courses again, I saw the hope return to her eyes. There was a moment in there where there was actual genuine happiness when she was talking about taking math. I was like, what are you talking about? It's just a math course. And here she is just so gleeful. And I was like, this person has lost their mind. It was invigorating to hear about it and to see others in that prison have that opportunity. It gave her a chance that in 25 years when she came out, there would be a real life for her. And then there was another good piece of news she got, the real possibility of parole. It was only her second year into a 25-year sentence. And here I've been living with the death sentence that I was going to see my mother when she was 40 and gets out of prison. I didn't think there was ever going to be an opportunity that she might be at my wedding, let alone my graduation or anything like that. And I know it broke her when I had to talk about the plans for graduation because she just couldn't be there. And then finally all this was happening, my senior year rolled around. Oh boy. It was a senior year. I mean, I was really, my game club, I was constantly there. I was running around. I had a job as a janitor. There's a lot of stories there. And everything else that happened in between was incredible. I made a few new friends. I did all of this. I was getting prepared for college because in my mom and due to my guidance counselor, I found a purpose in going to college and not just moving. That is why I went to college, is because they encouraged me to. Without those two influences, I don't know where I would be, but I don't think I would be here as a leader. I would probably be a leader somewhere, just not at a college. That was, of course, until things happened. Over the kind of course of the year, we had actually gotten it that Mom's parole had been approved, and this was back in early April. It was incredible because we heard she was getting out, and I was so excited. I had kept moving. I had gotten applied to a few colleges in Iowa, and I was trying to figure out where I actually wanted to go. I really didn't have the money for anything. My father really wasn't a factor in my life, even if I lived with him. And I was just more trying to figure out, who am I as a person? What do I actually represent? I've been told that I was great at politics, and I was great as a game player, and I was great as a writer. And I had all this information, but nothing to do with it. I took speech, and I did great, and I was like, well, maybe I should be a public speaker. And all these questions continued to bounce around my head while I was helping other students. I've always been an over-involved person, which is the reason I bring up the second half of this story, which is Tristan Miller. I'll say his name because he's a very important person to me. He had been my best friend since sophomore year because he didn't care. He didn't care that my family was a black sheep in the community because he was just as bad. Even if he had done nothing wrong, he was there with me. He was an incredible friend of mine. And I can always remember when we would go and play games together or when we would run around and just get involved with stuff because it's what we did. He had graduated 1 year before me and had gone off to the military. He'd come back home and he was excited to go to college. He was just as confused as I was about his life. And he really never had anyone give him a second chance. He had me, who had obviously been there, but I was just a kid. Even if I am a remarkable kid, I am still just a kid. Which is why I think on May 5th, he decided to kill himself. He hung himself in his own loft with a belt. And there's no reason I can give you a justification because I spent so many months searching. I had a lot of falling out in my own relationships, some of which were my fault. And I had moved in with his father for a while because his father was just as lost as I was. I gave the speech at his funeral, his own eulogy. I said what I needed to say and helped other people move on, but I was never sure how to do it myself. I was so afraid of taking charge again because here this kid who I had led, who I had trusted with everything, he had been my right-hand man through all of this, even going to help me see my mother sometimes in jail, being the kid to support and comfort me, and I was just lost. As a leader, I felt like I had failed, and I realized I couldn't hold that guilt. I got to be guilty because I had lived. Now that's a horrible thing to say, but it is. And that kind of is the roundabout to all the thing, is that it's the second chance. I came to Iowa from Nebraska originally on a second chance, and then I came from Iowa to Minnesota on another second chance because I got lucky. Mrs. Bosma continued to support me through it, but I don't think she knew the words of what to say to me. But his father did. His father encouraged me to continue on my path because it's what Tristan would have wanted. I continued to carry around that because of all the things I wanted to do, I wanted to have him by my side. There's nothing I can express to you about how deep of a friendship I had, except that I could tell you everything about him, including the fact of his favorite and least favorite foods. I could tell you about what he wanted to do with his future. I could tell you why he wore 2 different colored socks every day. He was a very random child. But my mom got her second chance. When she got paroled and got released in August, she was so excited to go back to college. And I realized that I had dropped all my eyeballs in Upper Iowa. I had literally just given up. I realized I couldn't stay in that state. So I came to Minnesota. And in Minnesota, I found it. I was given in by my grandparents. I applied to Anoka-Ramsey 2 weeks before, and I joined Student Senate on a whim. But here I am representing the entire Metro North region. Here I am talking and telling a story because it's worth telling and because it's about finding second chances. Now you might be wondering, well, what can I do? You can give anyone a second chance. And to the people who actually can do it, there's a lot of things that Minnesota could do for incarcerated people, mental health. All you have to do is make that step and reach out. There's a moment when you know that person is vulnerable, you can see it in their eyes. And you know you can do something, but you're just so unsure. Well, don't hesitate. If you take that step forward, there's nothing wrong with making the wrong choice. It's better than doing nothing. And for Iowa, if we have an incarcerated felons program, I would love to see Minnesota have it. And I'd be more than willing to tell you what it meant to my mother. And if it meant anything, I would love to get my mother to say it too. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.